For the sake of new Toastmasters and as a review for seasoned Toastmasters. Today's educational topic is on the using your body when making a speech topic. It will be by Bev Ward. Bev, who's been a Toastmaster for 25 years, is currently working on the Visionary Communication Path, Level 1. She's giving this speech for the project Evaluation and Feedback. Tanya, as timer, would you please give the appropriate lights at 5, 6, and 7 minutes? Thank you. In Bev's experience, how we present a speech is the most important thing that keeps an audience engaged, let alone awake. Part of the how is use of the Toastmaster's or speaker's body. Bev distributed a handout that spread through the tables entitled Evaluating Your Body's Spoken Image. During the speech, you can either follow along on that or focus all your attention on Bev. So with this in mind, please welcome Bev Ward to present her speech entitled Kick Your Presentation Up a Notch.
How many of you would like to kick your speeches up a notch or two? What if I told you it's easy? What if I told you just using your body and appendages like your hands and feet could do that? Today I'm going to talk to you about how to strengthen your presentations, how to reinforce your message, and how to make your speeches memorable by using gestures and body language. You've got a handout with 5 key points on there which I'll be following along. What I'd like to recommend to you before we start talking about those key points is when you're writing your speech, plan your gestures and your body language the same way you plan your delivery. Make little notes in the margins that says, smile here, or show them what I mean, how big that fish was there. That way you'll incorporate them in, and soon it will become just part of how you normally deliver your speeches. So let's start first of all with number 1, and that's posture. What you want to do is, you notice I waited at the side, took a couple of deep breaths, and was ready. Now, if you're old like me, you might not be able to jump off a chair and run to the front. It might take you a couple of minutes. So that's another good reason. Get to the front, plant your feet, relax, and take command of the stage. It's your time to show now. The other things you want to think about is make sure you're comfortable. Don't be wearing those spike heels that you can barely balance off of. Or gentlemen, don't tighten your belts to look good when then you won't be able to breathe and talk during the presentation. So make sure you're comfortable. Also, when you're doing these, you want to not be slouchy and looking scared or like you're trying to hide behind the podium, because people are going to think, oh, she's not very confident. She probably doesn't really know the thing she's talking about. The second thing on your list is gestures. Now, this is really your chance to show what you've got. You can be dramatic here. Anytime you have, for example, a verb in your speech, an action word, or a descriptor like big, or teensy tiny, or suppose you're telling a story about the time you went out for a walk trying to get into shape for the summer, and you came around the corner, and there was this huge dog with gnashing teeth growling at you. So you slunk away quietly, so the dog would probably not be interested in you. Now, you might not have remembered my story, but if you remember about the gnashing teeth and slinking away, that's part of reinforcing your message. I really like the gestures part of speaking. It really gives you a chance to stand out and be audacious. You also want to make sure that your gestures and your words match. And we'll talk a little bit about that in another couple of points. There's also some things that we call mannerisms in here that you want to avoid. You want to avoid dancing around. You want to avoid putting your hands in your pocket, fixing your hair, checking to see if your glasses are clean, or anything like that, because those are all distracting and they're things that we call mannerisms. So I encourage you to think about that, because that's my favorite part of it. Number 3 is body movements, which ties in with what we've been talking about. If you want to make a point, you can move over to the side of the stage and talk about your point. And then perhaps you want to make a second point, you could come to the other side of the stage and make your second point. From now on, point number 1 is associated with that piece of the stage, point number 2 is associated with the other point. And I'll come back to the middle to have a discussion. Make sure though when you're using body movements that they're purposeful and they're graceful and they enhance your speech. You don't want to look like a Bruce Lee movie by going up here and then down there and then running over here and then running over here. That's just going to distract and confuse the audience and maybe make you out of breath so they're not able to talk about the things that you need to do. Don't be dancing, don't be swaying, don't be running around. Be purposeful and graceful. The next one is facial expressions. The audience takes a bit of their cue from how they're going to react to you by looking to see what you look like. If you're looking scared, they may not have as much confidence in what you're about to say. If you tell them what a great time you had on vacation with a sad look in your face, then they're probably or possibly not going to take your recommendation to go on a vacation in that spot because it looks like you're not sincere. Also, when you're talking about facial expressions, they have to be friendly when you're out. You want the audience to relate to you and to like you so that they'll listen to you and take some cues from what you have to say. The next one we have here is eye contact. And eye contact is really your chance to bond with the audience. You should make sure that everyone in the room feels like they are part of your speech, that you're talking to them. Some of us have a habit of only looking at one side of the room. You have to build it into your speech to look to all sides. And stop and look at some people so they think that you're talking to them. Don't just be flitting around from side to side. It'll make you dizzy, yourself dizzy, it'll confuse the audience, and it's not going to contribute to the need to be contacting with your audience. So these are the 5 things rather that I wanted to talk to you today briefly about eye contact, about facial expressions, about body movements, gestures, and posture. Now, I want you to understand that these things are really important and that you really should try to put them in your speech. And to leave you with that thought, I want to share a small story with you. In 2014, a man by the name of Dan Njaya won the World Championship in Public Speaking. A few years later, in 2018, a woman by the name of Ramona won the World Championship of Public Speaking. Ramona tells us that she borrowed something that Dan Njaya did, and she contributes that in a large part to her having won the competition. And that part was the open body gestures, to include the audience so that they feel part of your speech. Her hands and his were always open and were always facing the audience. Think about things that you can figure out that match your speeches. Maybe you'll have a signature gesture or piece of body language that you can use that people will remember you for and not remember you badly by dancing around the stage. I wish to encourage you to be bold, be audacious, be brave, use and practice these gestures so that you too can kick your speeches up a notch or 2.